Hey guys, can you hear me? Hello, hello. Let me see. Yes, you can hear me. Okay, perfect. How's it going, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Almost Wednesday. Almost the middle of the week. So, man, I haven't went live. I've been uploading sorry, my cat is meowing pretty loudly. Here we go. I haven't went live. I've been uploading videos instead. And hey Lumi. But yeah, I've been uploading videos, haven't went live. I've also been a little bit sick, so my voice was sounding crazy. But I just wanted to come on and talk about some things that I've been seeing online. We have Kanye West and Candace Owens. There's some Manosphere things and there's some gender war stuff going on, and that is a component of my channel to talk about not really the manosphere per se, but just the things that they're saying about Black women. And I would talk about that on my channel, bring up the actual facts, data, and statistics to correct that and put out the truth, right? But there's been like some gender war stuff going on. I see some Black women going on panels, and I'm not one of those people that's going to ever argue with that. I think if you want to go and, speak the truth in regards to Black women, as a Black woman yourself, you have every right to do so. And I know, a lot of people don't want Black women going on these panels, but there's some Black women who can do it and are good at it, and there's other Black women that just want to support from behind the scenes. So I don't really go on panels like that when it comes to this gender war stuff. I just stay on my own channel or talk to other Black women about what's being said and about what's going on, because there are quite a few Black women who believe these lies, right? Like they haven't really found the nitty gritty of the BWE space, so they don't really know the truth. The Kevin Samuels, the O'Shea Duke Jacksons, like those are really big channels. So these Black women don't really have, the smaller BWE channels who are actually giving out the truth. A lot of Black women don't have exposure to the smaller channels, so they're only listening to these big channels of these men who are saying all these things about Black women, right? And keep in mind that this gender war, and from my observations, was started by the men. Okay, there was never like a Black female Kevin Samuels that came up on the scene and started telling Black men that they're ugly and gonna die alone and all this crap. That was men doing that. And then once, Kevin Samuels and all these other guys came up on the scene, then you had the BWE channels come on. And then you had some other OG BWE content creators got even more bigger. So like Paris Milan, Chrissy, Cynthia G, they all grew their following a lot over the course of Kevin Samuels and all that going viral too. Right. So we have to talk about these things. Like I know that everyone wants to talk about leveling up and job applications for Black women and all that stuff, and that stuff is important, but there's still other Black women whose mental health is being affected. There's still an image that Black women need to maintain as well, and part of that image not only does that embody going out there applying to the jobs and doing the work, but it also embodies you telling the truth, you stepping up to the plate when someone or something tries to make you out to be the bad person, and you offer that correction. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. It's not like you're not being desperate, thirsty, or a mammy because you defend your image, your character, and who you are in society. I ain't never heard nothing like that. So, but I wanted to first touch on Candace Owens and this White Lives Matter type of thing. So if you've been on my channel for a while, you should know that I am actually a conservative Black woman. And my channel is for more the moderate conservative leaning Black woman, or if you're flat out conservative. And I did do a poll on my channel not too long ago asking you guys if you were a feminist, if you were a Democrat, Republican, conservative, moderate, what have you. And basically, a lot of you ladies are not feminists. A lot of you ladies are actually independent and or conservative. The majority of you guys that are here on my channel. So when I saw Candace Owens and Kanye West come out with these, or Kanye West come out with the t-shirts and Candace Owens wearing one to support it, I was really shocked, if I'm being real, because this is a very bold move. I think they did have an agenda with these shirts, and I think that they accomplished what they wanted to accomplish with these shirts. The point of these shirts, as to why they put them out, was to expose the hypocrisy of a lot of Black people who are actually racist towards white people, right? Because I'm not a supporter of Black Lives Matter. A lot of Black women on here also aren't, especially when it comes to Black women in the streets. Protesting and what have you. I would not recommend a Black woman do that. And a lot of other Black women agree with that. So that's not even, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, or whatever you are, that's just not safe for Black women to do, right? So I don't I don't support that. So the agenda with this is they wanted to expose the racism that a lot of Black people have towards white people, and they accomplished it. A lot of Black people were saying, I'm traumatized by seeing these shirts, and it just really exposed it also exposed how many Black people probably don't know their history, that every single white person is not a descendant of a colonizer. There are a lot of white people that are descendants of, you know, Irish, Poland, and other European countries that did not colonize people the way we know it here in the West. Like, there are plenty of white people whose great great grandparents came here on the Mayflower, broke, escaping the potato famine, and they have no no history rooted in owning any slaves or in colonizing, because their family was broke. Like, they didn't have any money to even buy slaves. So that's actually a whole lot of white people. The white people that owned slaves, a lot of them had money. They had like land and all, plantations and stuff. There were people who didn't own plantations and still had slaves, and they had some form of money. But there are a lot of broke people, guys, no matter their race. Like, majority of people aren't a part of the 1%, 5%, or 10%. So they don't have money or come from a lineage of people that have money to have slaves and freaking butlers and everything else, and maids and stuff like that. That's not that's not realistic, right? So though I wouldn't say I support any type of white, Black, Asian, Hispanic lives matter, but obviously I think all people are important. But I also have asked myself, as a Black person, especially a Black person who's read a lot of history, that every single culture has gone through an insane amount of trauma. If you know history, then you should know that Black people were not the only slaves of the world. Chinese people were also slaves. White people were also slaves. Modern day Ukrainians and Russians, which are referred to as Slavics, were the first, that's where the word slave came from, was from Slavic white people. They were considered the quote unquote dirty whites of the world. You know what I'm saying? So this was like centuries ago, right? And the first people to really enslave Africans for real were Arabs. They weren't white. So if you know things about history, you should know those know those facts. So all this outrage, it's just got to be fake and kind of ignorant outrage towards this that a lot of Black people are having. I mean, the Black people that are really extreme pro-Black, like radically pro-Black, I don't think they know their history, or they're paying attention to history that is biased and like confirmation biased type of history. They're not paying attention to the whole truth. If you did watch the movie The Woman King, I went live and talked about The Woman King a little bit. I think Yanni actually went live yesterday, and she talked about it in her live as well, is that our oppressors were, those African men, those African chiefs. They They sold off African women. They, would make them prostitutes to give to white men and stuff like that. So, you know, the outrage should not be towards white people as much as you think it should. If you really know what you're talking about, if you really know history and stuff like that. But this was, this stunt that Kanye and Candace did, this was a stunt to expose the hypocrisy and to expose how many black people really hate white people for no other reason than because they're white, and because of what they think they know about white history, and what they've been probably brainwashed to know from the media and from other pro-black people that also don't read. Right, that's one of the main ways you can keep the average black person out of the loop with reality, is if you put it in a book, or whatever the saying is, put it in a book. The black man won't ever be able to find out the truth because they don't read about these things. It has to be a trend, it has to be a hashtag, and everyone else has to do it in order for it to be real, when the real truth is in the history books. It's not on Instagram, it's not a hashtag. That's why the BLM got so popular, because it was just a hashtag. It was mainly a trend. I mean, of course, black lives are being hurt, but other lives are being hurt as well. When you actually look at the stats, white men are dying a whole lot more from police brutality. I mean, the rate of which it is happening is different, but raw numbers, white men are dying a lot. So, that's another that's another big issue I had with BLM. It was centered on black men dying, when black men are the main way a black man is going to die is from the hands of another black man before another white man. So I didn't like how BLM was really black male centered. But, talking about BLM within itself, I just feel like it's a whole nother conversation. I really want to talk about black conservatism. And I feel like, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like nowadays black conservatism is getting much more popular, right? Like, I don't remember, like, back in high school 10 years ago and stuff like that, that black conservatism was a thing, right? Especially because, like, Obama was in office and all that. I didn't really hear a lot about black conservatism other than, like, what's her name, Condoleezza Rice, and like just Clarence Thomas. Like, those were as close as what I heard anything about black conservatives. But it wasn't until Candace Owens came on the scene. I will give it to her. She did kind of put black conservatism out there amongst younger black people, especially because she's so tech savvy and obviously got her start from being on social media. So, when it comes to Candace Owens in general, I'm not going to say I agree with every single thing she says, especially as of lately. She's been, speaking a lot about, like, talking more about some manosphere talking points, in my opinion, like a little bit of the things she says. Um, I was watching another live stream and they pointed out that Candace Owens, I think it was Chrissy's, I believe, when she went live and talked about this, that Candace Owens talks about, traditional home and family life, but she's like a whole public figure herself. Like, her actual life is far from traditional. And, my channel is pro marriage and pro traditional for those black women who want it, or at least agree with the lifestyle and how it can be beneficial to a lot of black women. And, if it works for that black woman, it works for her. But I would not consider Candace Owens a traditional woman at all. Like, her life is far from traditional. Now, let's not get it confused. Just because you're a traditional woman doesn't mean you don't go on social media, you don't say anything to people, and you're like this hidden person who stays in the home and you go and do nothing else. That's not what traditionalism is. There's plenty of women, even throughout history, who had husbands and children and actually acted in their traditional roles, but were also very likable, relatable, and sociable. And therefore, people wanted to hear what these women had to say. They were also pioneers in their community along with other wives, because they were raising children along with other kids of other women in other families. So there were times where, women were traditional wives and mothers, but still had a role in society that helped to bring the society and the community together and improve it even throughout history of time. It's always been like that. So, I don't want to put that out there either. Like, traditional women aren't these people that stay in the house and just never come out. Like, that's not that's not true. But for Candace Owens, though, it's like she's barely in her house at all. She's literally uploading videos in her studio every single day. She's working all day, every day. She just like gave birth. She has babies. So, she's pioneering through this work. Um, and she's not, it doesn't seem that the home life is really up there for her. But, nonetheless, she does speak facts on a lot of issues. I think when it comes to the Black community, she does speak a lot of truth. Like, she actually brings up data and statistics. So I can't say that, I have anything wrong with her in that sense. However, her opinions are kind of manosphere-ish as of lately to me. Like, she's doing a lot of shaming of women and stuff like that. And that's the yeah, that's the manosphere part in my opinion, the shaming stuff. But when it comes to Black conservatism, I became a Black conservative about 2 years ago. Um, I was always a moderate, actually. Even throughout high school, I was always just a moderate. But then, like, being in the house because of COVID and finding out certain information, and then just looking at my own life and really analyzing my own actions, it's just like I'm technically a conservative. Like, I say moderate, but the way I live my life in reality is more of a conservative way, and just what I tend to be drawn to and attracted to, and the type of subjects I'm interested in, even. Um, they're just more on the conservative way. So from there is just how I started my journey, and then, started to do more research and just developed that my main belief system is conservatism. Now, I also want to say that conservatism is not a political party. You can be a conservative Democrat, you can be, obviously, a conservative Republican, or you can be a conservative moderate. Like, it's not, or a conservative independent. Like, conservatism is not a political party. Democrats and Republicans, those are our main political parties, right? Or the Green Party or whatever. But conservatism is not. There are liberal minded Republicans where they're just not so traditional, they're not so conservative, they're okay with the new modern way. But they identify with the Republican Party, but they have more liberal type of beliefs. Um, you know, so it's not a political party if you choose to be a conservative. But if you are a conservative, you'll probably find yourself voting more Republican if you decide to vote. Or if you're an independent, you probably will find yourself agreeing with a lot of Republican candidates. So stuff like that. But Black conservatism it's coming to light. I would honestly say, yeah, thanks to Candace Owens. And then now you have Kanye, who I never would have thought would be a conservative, but apparently he is. He hasn't directly said it, I don't think. Maybe he has. He says a lot of stuff, so I don't even know at this point. But if he's standing with Candace Owens, he's also, wore his Make America Great Again Trump hat. So it's obvious that he's probably a conservative or definitely a Republican. I also, I may be mistaken by this, but I also think Nicki Minaj is a Republican. I don't know. Someone told me that, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to get into celebrities' political views. But in general, Black conservatism is coming on the scene. And I think it's coming on the scene because Black people are, they're getting a little tired of the same old, same old. They're also getting tired of, from the Black conservatives that I'm hearing that are newly Black conservative, they're saying that the Democratic Party hasn't really done anything for them as Black people, that they're always being race baited into Democratic policies and being like, triggered by anything racial to be a part of the Democrats. But at the end of the day, they don't get any, Black Democrats don't get any real results once the Black vote is given to the Democratic Party. So there are a lot of Black people leaving the Democratic Party in particular, and just in general, even if they don't, Black people don't vote, a lot of them are claiming to be more traditional and wanting to be conservative. Even in this YouTube space, traditionalism amongst Black people has has risen a lot. For the first time, I'm seeing so many Black women say that they do want to stay home and be homemakers, right? And if we really talk about the history of Black women in this country, us being homemakers isn't really a part of our history. I mean, a part of our American history. Like, Black women were known as what? Like the maids, the mammies. We were typewriters once the telecommunications industry started taking off. Like, it wasn't very it wasn't a thing to have Black women staying home, mostly because a lot of Black men couldn't afford that, even during the times where Black people were the most married. Before the 60s, Black women still had some kind of a job. Some of them were able to stay home, but it wasn't in certain states. Even, I think I even saw this on a TikTok, that in the South, some Black women, it was like a law that they had to work. Yeah, it was crazy, like during Jim Crow era or something like that. So, this is the first time I'm seeing a lot of Black women come out on their TikToks, on YouTube, and comments saying that if they could, they would like to stay home and take care of their babies. They would like to um, be married and not have kids until marriage, and be able to stay home. They want a protector and a provider husband. They want a traditional relationship. And ever since coming on YouTube, is the first time that I'm seeing this at this amount, like this many people. Like, it was before, like, the Kevin Samuel stuff and Manosphere stuff went viral. I don't really think it was out there that much that Black people were all of a sudden wanting to be this traditional, that childless, especially childless Black men and women wanted their first marriage to be their only marriage, and wanted to have children for the first time within their marriage and have traditional relationships. A lot of Black men talking about they now want a submissive wife and all these other things, right? So, traditionalism and conservatism, they run hand in hand, but obviously they don't have to be of the same. You can be a liberal traditional person. That's perfectly fine. There's plenty of those out there like that. Totally normal to do that, or just independent and traditional. But it's very easy for traditionalism and conservatism to run hand in hand. So, if we want to talk about repairing the Black family, I do think that a lot of Black people, for the Black people who want that, they're going to start switching to being conservative and definitely being traditional, right? Because that's when the Black community was thriving the most. Like I said, before the 60s, there were so many Black traditional families where there was a man in the home and a Black woman, and they had kids. Black men were not in jail. I mean, this was all before war on drugs and stuff like that. And Black people were more married than white people. That is a real thing, right? So, even, I mean, my dad is from that generation, actually. He said when he went to his church, there were plenty. Sorry, I just got to. There were plenty of Black people who owned homes and who had traditional families. The single mother stuff back in those days was not common. It was not the majority, and it actually was rare. Okay, it was so rare to the point that if there was a single mother family, the Black woman was looked at like she couldn't keep her man, like something was wrong with her. There was a lot of, there had to be a lot of, I'm sorry, there just had to be a lot of mammies back then, you know what I'm saying? So they would for sure look at that single mother Black woman like something must have happened with her to break her family up, because broken up Black families, before the between the end of World War II and the 60s was not it like um single mother families was just not a thing, and that's in those specific decades, right? And that's when the Black community was thriving. So I think, to get back to that, if you want to have a Black family, being traditional, maybe even conservative, but for sure traditional, is probably gonna help a lot of Black people have that Black family and get back to that, right? So um the White Lives Matter shirts did what they were supposed to do. Okay, they actually, number one, I think they put Black conservatives on the scene right now. Um, yeah, they just did. Now we can also have a conversation on how Black conservatives are called coons, and a lot of people said that these shirts are coon behavior, coonery, Uncle Tom. And if you actually read Uncle Tom's Cabin, then you should know that Uncle Tom is not, he doesn't, his actual character in the book doesn't fit the description of how people are using his name when they have these clapbacks or whatever. It's actually another character in the book that they're talking about, because Uncle Tom was not this black white worshiper or whatever. That wasn't Uncle Tom, really, but that's a whole nother conversation too. But I don't think I think if you think this is coon behavior, or just for anyone who thinks this is coon behavior, once again, I'm not sure if you really know history for real. I'm also not sure if you, you know, I'm not really sure if you understand the grand scheme of things. And I'm not sure if you understand what a lot of Black women even say on this space about how Black women have all agreed that Black men are heavily worshipped in the BLM movement. And a lot of the times, Black men lose their lives from other Black men before they lose it from a white person. And other races of men also go through traumatic experiences. So to pedestalize the Black male's trauma is is another way to treat him like a child. It's another way to coddle him, because every other man goes through problems as well. It's a part of manhood. Like, there's things a part of manhood that are horrible. There's also things about womanhood that are also horrible. There's gonna be negatives to every single system, to every single, community or whatever. And to try to have this ideology that um, everything can be perfect in the Black community and amongst Black lives, and once you take care of the white people killing off Black people, then all the Black lives will be saved. Incorrect. Incorrect. What really needs to happen is the attention on Black crime. That's what's going to save Black lives, not keeping white people away from Black people. A lot of Black people would not have what they have today if it wasn't for white people. Okay, because a lot of them work for white people. A lot of them are using the white person's own phone and internet. So let's just keep it all the way a buck. Okay, where are the Black owned cell phones? Where are the Black owned websites and social medias that we can go on? Are there any? Oh, there isn't. Okay, well then you're using white owned stuff to get your points across, but at the same time blaming the white people for taking your life. I don't know. These are the things that go through in my head that don't make sense to me. Okay, and it's also not even reflected in the data, as I just said. Black men are most likely to die from the hands of another Black man, not from a white cop. Okay, not from any other white person, not from racism, from Black on Black jealousy of the Black Brotherhood, whatever you want to call it, drug dealing, stuff like that, homelessness, disease, like being overweight, smoking pot. Like, those are things that are going to kill Black men at a higher rate and way more often than a white police officer. Okay. So let's be clear on that. Let's just be clear. Right. So that's what I had to say about that. There's a lot of things Candace Owens says that I support, because she doesn't always speak lies, especially when it comes to BLM. I think she's right on board with the things that she thinks is happening with BLM. I think she's right on board. She's having a BLM documentary come out, and I am definitely going to watch it. Like, I'm definitely going to watch it because they already got exposed, the BLM organization. It's a lot going on. They never were created. The BLM never really helped Black people, not in the way that they could have been helped with all that money that they received. So I'm definitely gonna watch that documentary, and I would love to have or to see a lot of other Black women watch it too, and talk about it, because we've always had reservations about BLM to begin with, and them getting exposed, and Candace Owens doing the good work of creating a documentary and doing the investigating herself and putting it out for the world to see, is really going to prove all the things that Black women have been saying regarding this organization, regarding keeping Black men protected from I don't even know what, because the white men are not coming for Black men the way that they think they are. Majority of white people in general don't care about Black men. I'm sorry, they don't. They have their own life to live. White people have bills to pay. Okay, they got houses they need to run, especially white men. They got their own families to go home to. The majority of them don't care about Black men enough to the point where they want to go out and get them got just because. All right. So that was all media propaganda, trendy stuff to make money. It wasn't real. It's not really happening. Okay. So there are some other things that I want to talk about. Let me pull some of this stuff up. So I don't know if you guys actually saw, it's kind of been going around. Andrew Tate did an interview with Piers Morgan, and there's some other things that I'm going to bring up regarding this stuff. But Andrew Tate did an interview with Piers Morgan. I ended up watching the entire thing. However, I'm not going to play it because it's like an hour long. But hold on. Let me at least share so that you guys can see. The full interview is on YouTube. I'm not really hearing like a lot of ladies talk about this, which is, understandable. Okay, sheesh. Oh, that took forever for me to get that. Okay. Ooh. Okay, so Andrew Tate, I have it up. I don't have it like the sound on, but the captions are there. Andrew Tate did this interview with Piers Morgan. I don't really know much about Piers Morgan, but everyone says he's not the best interviewer. What's happening now, if you watch the interview, Andrew Tate is banned. He really rose to fame as being I don't want to call him Kevin Samuels for like the non-Black men, but he really rose up to be this macho, super masculine, like role model for these young guys. And he got banned from all of his videos that he was doing. Primarily, the most problematic stuff he has said has been his stuff about how he feels and thinks about women, about how women are property. When you're married, you belong to your husband. He said once that if his girlfriend has an OnlyFans, that he's going to be the one taking the money off of the OnlyFans, not her. So he said just a lot of wild stuff. He said 19-year-olds are prettier and better than 25-year-olds because they've had less, penis, and 19-year-olds are just easier to be submissive to you. Like all these predatory things towards women, all these incredibly objectifying things towards women, and then calling these ideologies masculinity. The things that he has said about men has been stuff rooted in men just rejecting their emotional well-being and instead picking up like a more aggressive, ruthless, um kind of savage, like what's the word that I'm looking for? Whatever, kind of savage, ruthless persona when it comes to just achieving things in life. And if we recall the article, The Rise of Lonely Men, the psychologist literally says that it's because men are rejecting their emotional well being and their emotional state and taking on this macho, um, savage type of mindset, and then seeing women only worth their time for sex. And it's because men are doing that. That's the reason why the relationships aren't working. And that's the reason why men are chronically single more than ever before since any of this stuff has been recorded. So, you know, this Andrew Tate guy is 1000% not a role model that a lot of men should be looking at, especially if they want to have families, which a lot of men do want to have families, believe it or not, even though they're out here acting different. They do want to have families, but they think they can have them with the bachelor, savage, macho boy mindset. And that's not going to work. Like, these men in the manosphere are literally trying to create a life or a world where they can do no wrong in anything. They're like trying to change the moral code. They're trying to make cheating and lying okay. And they're all trying to make it okay by saying they're the man. They're blaming their hormones as to why they can't stop having sex with random women. They're blaming, they're blaming divorce court and child support court as, why women are just having babies and can just leave them, right? So they not only want to revert back to days when women didn't have any rights, but they also want to change those times to almost make it seem like it would be worse for women than those days. Um, they want to make it so that women don't have rights. They don't have anywhere else to go. Like, you're backed in a corner of these men's abusive tactics and these men's like way of achieving their most selfish and cynical desires at your expense. So, there's these guys in the manosphere. I've said this plenty of times of my channel already, but these guys in the manosphere are doing anything but helping men become better. All of their content involves talking about girls, talking about how to get laid by girls. None of their content embodies teaching men any kind of skills. And the content that is actually out there by men for men to get better at things don't go viral. They don't get any traffic. And I feel for those guys who are actually trying to put out information to help men make more money and be better people, because they're putting in work in their content and it's not working out for them as much as it is for people like Andrew Tate. I don't know, O'Shea Duke Jackson. Speaking of him, O'Shea Duke Jackson, if you know who that is, he is, like, I guess, the originator of the Black Manosphere. He was the first to start creating, channels, or his channel was the first to. Can you guys? Okay. Yeah, his channel was the first channel to really come out and have like a black male opinion on stuff that's going on. He had a video that he did um a few days ago, and I just so happened to watch it yesterday, because all these manosphere people, once you even say the word manosphere out loud, they end up in your algorithm when you log on. So they just always pop up on my stuff. But he was making a video about how Black men should not protect Black women anymore. And in this video, he says that he asked a question, or he was referring to a scenario where a woman was asked a question, and the woman was asked Do you think women should be treated like queens for being women? And the woman said, yes, absolutely. I think women should be treated like queens. And then he went to ask her, do you think that men should have sex because they're men or get sex from women because they're men? And the woman says, no, I don't think men should just get sex because they're men, right? Arts of Aries says, no, he wasn't the first. Oh, okay. He says in his videos he is, but yeah, I'm sure that is definitely debatable. Um, but he goes on in his video to say that that's the problem with modern women. Modern women want to be treated like queens, but don't think that men deserve sex because they're men. It's just like, it's just like, first of all, sir, treating a woman like a queen, when a woman thinks of being treated like a queen, the first thing, I'm sorry, the last thing, okay, the last thing a woman thinks about when being treated like a queen is being bent over. Okay, when a woman thinks about being treated like a queen, she's thinking about nice gestures, how you speak to her, maybe the things you buy her, the type of quality time you spend with her, things like that. That actually puts a smile on her face outside of the bedroom. Okay. So you can't compare the two. Like, yes, not only women, I know, he said women being treated like queens, but women being treated well because they're women. Yes. Yes. That should be a thing. Absolutely. And men getting sex just because he's male and just because he's in the room. No. Like, no. Matter of fact, that's never been how it's been throughout history. Men have the most easiest access to women today than any other group of men ever before. Men from 100 years ago couldn't go on dating apps and have a one night stand, or go to the bars and have one night stands like how they do today, the luck or the chances of them having it all the time, or go online and find an escort and pay for sex. Men back then didn't have that type of like sexual privilege as the men do today. All right? Like, it's very easy today for men to have sex compared to men 100 years ago. So there was really never a time where men just got sex because they're men. And instead, there was a time where women were treated well and treated as queens because they were women. Because men knew that women needed protection, or else like the woman would be would be at stake and in danger. And if women are in danger at large, that means you won't have access to, like, having being able to have children, which would cause the cycle of the population dying and legacies not being able to carry on, because you can't have women in a constant state of danger all of the time and then expect them to birth kids, healthy children, to carry on legacies. So yes, men were treating women like queens, were protecting them and providing for them just because. Yes, absolutely. And the only type of men who had access to sex, number one, were married back in those days. And if they weren't married, they go and wanted sex and weren't rich, they'd probably go to a brothel. And brothels back in way back then, during the times these men fetishize about, brothels were like all the way out the way. They were miles away out the city. And if you went to a brothel as a man, it wasn't talked about, it wasn't put out there, right? And the women who were in the city, in the villages, were virgins, and they were, with their fathers and protected by their fathers. And then that's when you had, single men paying dowries and stuff like that for women to make their wife. So there was never a time where men were just getting sex because they're men from women that are around them. That never really happened. So like, the fact that he said this in his video, that women are crazy for wanting to be treated like queens because men should be getting sex just because they're men. The two are far from the same. Now, now he could raise a problem with that question if the question would have been, do you believe women should be treated like queens? Yes. And then the woman would respond, to the reverse, he would ask her, do you believe men should be treated like kings? And she would say no. Then I would understand why he would have a problem, because in that question, the scenarios are quite literally the same. You're talking about treatment and how people are towards each other, how men and women are towards each other outside of the bedroom. But if you're going to compare apples to oranges, like how what? It's not the same whatsoever. So it just doesn't make any sense. But, these are the things that are being said in the manosphere that they believe are helping men become better and wake up and realize some things and, take the red pill. By the way, when it comes to the red pill, what's her name? That girl that would like go viral about, being a stay-at-home wife, and she did TikToks talking about how she would not care if her husband was cheating on her as long as she doesn't find out. This chick right here, she put out a video. Here it is, right here. I took the red pill and I'm done. Right? All of these mammies, all of these mammies that have come into the red pill, come into the manosphere, and have proclaimed to be for the guys and claim that this is traditionalism when it's not, are now leaving. They're now leaving the manosphere. They're now leaving the red pill, and they never want to make content about. They don't want to make content about men anymore and advocating for men anymore. Instead, they want to make femininity content and content on being a traditional wife. And that's literally what she says in this video. If you actually watch it and listen to it towards the end, she talks about how she's no longer going to make red pill content and make content strictly for women on being feminine, traditional, how to cater to your husband, and blah, blah, blah. So a lot of the men are complaining about this because they're complaining that the woman who got all of the numbers, subscribers, and went viral from talking all this crap about modern women and being for the red pill, got their fame from that, are now dipping out and now making the content that really makes them happy. Now making content that they have really wanted to make all this time, but they just didn't have, the numbers that they wanted. Because keep in mind, these are stay-at-home wives. This woman, she doesn't work. That's what she claims to do. So YouTube is probably a good source of her income. For all I know, she could have investments and whatever else. I don't know that enough to confirm it, but I know for sure that, YouTube is probably a good source of income for her. So she had to run up them numbers, run up them super chats, talking crap about modern women and, pandering to red pill men, to then dip out on the whole movement and now want to be for women being traditional. Like, she was one of the main girls that were part of the red pill movement, right? And she's not the only one. There's other ones. There's other women in this space, in this red pill space, who claim to, really be traditional and want family, but they're really just advocating for red pill men. And they're saying little bits and pieces in their videos that they don't think men should be telling women how to act. I was just watching a live from like a super mammy on here in the black, manosphere, the black girl with the long natural hair. And she stays making videos on divestors and interracial dating. Oh my God, it's crazy. It is really crazy. And she's married to a black man at that. Stays talking about black women dating out. It's ridiculous. But even she is starting to say in her videos that she doesn't think men should have a platform where they're telling women how to be and telling women about their femininity and being a traditional wife. And, when she said that, I actually agreed with her on that. I don't think it's a man's place to tell a woman about her femininity and how to be feminine and It's so weird. Umi says it's so weird. The men are always speaking of women. It's an obsession. It really is an obsession, right? It's really an obsession. They have nothing else better but to speak about women and to want to put their negativity onto women by trying to rate you and put you in your place and all this other crap. It doesn't help men improve at all. And the manosphere is quite literally a swamp. Like, it sucks. It has nothing. It's nothing about men anymore. It's all about women and what women are doing, and how women are. And in her video, how she's this video about her not being in the red pill anymore, she talks about how the red pill complains that the system that we live in here in the US or in the Western world is gynocentric. Right? They don't believe, men in the red pill, according to her, and a lot of the men in the comments, they don't believe that we currently live in a patriarchy. And this isn't just the Black community I'm talking about. I'm talking about the US, the Western world, everybody. They don't believe that we live in a patriarchy, that we live in a gynocentric, matriarchal type of society. And it seems to me that they're looking at who benefits from this type of society. And they're looking at whoever benefits are the people that are technically in control, which they consider to be women. They think that women benefit the most from divorce, from gaining child support. They also believe that women benefit the most from marriage, which isn't true. Um, Men benefit the most from marriage, whether you're traditional or modern. The man benefits the most from marriage, and all these things. But just because somebody benefits from something doesn't mean they have control. Okay, we still have majority of men in our police force. We still have majority of men, um, making our laws and signing new things into laws every day. And we still have majority of men being hired for high powered jobs and like executive level types of jobs, even today in 2022. Now, the wage gap is starting to close between men and women. Women are also like, as of lately, the most likely to buy a home. There's a lot of new single homeowners that are women right now. That just came out like within the first quarter of this year. I think like 19% of single homeowners, women were leading that, and compared to the men who are like 9% or 8% or something like that. Single men are not out here, buying homes like that. I know for sure in my area, there's a lot of women who are single buying their own houses. So women are getting up there, but we're still living in a society where men are in control of of the roles and things that actually like would change society. Like, men are still holding those positions majority of the time. Now, just because women and children benefit from the things that are in place doesn't mean women and children, or women especially, are in control of these things. Women do need to be protected, as I just said. I think one of you guys just said it in the chat. Yes, Art of Aries says that makes sense. Women need to be relaxed and with energy to have healthy children. Exactly. So we need a system where women benefit. Okay. We need a system where women come out protected. Okay. If we have a system where women are frequently and just all the time down and out, the state of how children would turn out would not be positive whatsoever. And one thing about the child support stuff is, I don't know how I know it's different for each state. I'm not a legal professional by any means, but the thing is that, and I don't have kids either, but my brother did go through child support court, and me and my whole family witnessed a lot with the child support court. At the end of the day, I know that what's best for the child is what's really, really important in that court system. And the men who are complaining that they didn't get full custody or they have to pay all this money, I know that the man can't have full custody of the kids if he's always at work, or if he's living this lifestyle where he's all over the place. the children need to be in a stable home. They need to have routine. They need to have structure. Like a man like Future, freaking Nick Cannon, men that are just all up and over the place, and all these NBA players and stuff like that, they don't have the capacity to run a structured home. They're always out. They're always going somewhere. And children, especially babies, toddlers, can't be raised in environments like that. So yes, the custody is going to go to the woman in that scenario. And also, once the parents split up, from other things that I know about the child support court, is that they don't want to disrupt the lifestyle the child would have had if the parents stayed together. So that's where like the expensive money, like the man paying out a lot of money comes from, is because the judge, I guess that's just how it goes in some states. They don't want to disrupt that lifestyle. So it's like the Manosphere and the red pill specifically, because I guess red pill and Manosphere is different. The red pill has complaints for things that actually benefit women and children, and they complain about women and children being benefited, and they are upset that men aren't benefiting in the same way, right? But if we do live in a society where majority of things that are being ran by men are happening, it's not up to the woman to step down so the men can be better. It's up to the men to step up. That's the point. Like, that's why these systems um have the woman benefit at the end, because the women don't have places in societies the way that men do. They don't have that type of, you know, I would definitely say male privilege in a patriarchal society. 100% there's male privilege in a patriarchal society. Teresa says women and children are also harmed by patriarchy. Absolutely. Women and children are definitely harmed by patriarchy when they are under the leadership of a psychotic, dangerous, and violent, bitter, angry, jealous man. Absolutely. There are amazing patriarchs that I know, that I've seen, and there's horrible, insane, twisted patriarchs as well, which is what I also believe the system that we have, although not perfect, like court systems and stuff, and our justice system and stuff, particularly for women and children, comes into play to protect them from these dangerous guys that just so happen to get in charge. And I believe these dangerous guys get in charge because they're smart in the books, they're smart and persuasive in the boardroom, but when they go home, they're freaking monsters, right? To their women and their kids. And they're harmed by patriarchal ruling in this way. Now, I also think that there is harm in matriarchy, and there's harm in like a community ran system as well, which is what I hear a lot of feminists prefer, to have a community type of thing where everyone is equally in charge. And I don't believe that's the way, because everyone is different. We're not all the same, so we can't all have the same level of leadership and power, because we're different and we express ourselves differently, right? So, red pill and manosphere is definitely anti-woman, because they get angry, bothered, and upset when women and children, especially like when there's children involved, it's almost like when they speak on situations that involve kids, it's almost like they ignore the fact that they're kids. Like, they all just draw it back to the woman, like the shaming single mother stuff. They're shaming single mothers, thinking that it has to do with the woman that they're talking about. But you're talking about a woman who's the mother of kids. So you're indirectly crapping on the children as well, because they're involved in the scenario and in the situation you're talking about. So they want children to also suffer. You know what I'm saying? They want children to suffer along with mothers. They don't admit this because it sounds really dark to say that you want children to suffer, but they indirectly say it when they come for single mothers. They indirectly say it when they want the single mothers to hit the wall and end up with nothing as the solo parents as the solo parent of the children, right? So red pill is delusional. It's very anti-woman. It's also very anti-children. I wanted to put that in the title, but I didn't want to get flagged or something like that. But it's just the truth. They're not for the people that are weak in this system. being benefited and protected. Red pill men are the men who are the most weak, the most feminine to me, and like effeminate, and the most traumatized group of guys on here. And they are the least likely to have relationships. They're not going to last in relationships with this mentality of wanting to have their needs met first and foremost. I mean, think about it. If you want to have a family, it can't just be about you, and your partner is not going to, it can't be about them either. It has to be about the legacy, the goal, the situation at hand, the solutions. And obviously you're still in a form of a relationship, so there's give and take, but you do have to act from a place where you are thinking of other people other than yourself, which is why a lot of other women that aren't for marriage, that's the reason why they're not for marriage, because it's like their needs aren't met, their needs tend to be ignored. And there is some, I wouldn't say there's truth to being ignored. I do think that's a little bit more of a subjective type of thing, but there is truth to you're not able to put your needs above everyone else just whenever you feel like it. It can't be about you. It has to be about what's in front of you and what's going on. And the ideal goal is that everyone can benefit, right? That's always the ideal goal. That's always like the solution that a lot of people want to have, but it's like, it can't always work out that way. So sometimes, there's going to have to be sacrifices from the woman's side and the man's side for the betterment of the family and for the home. Right. But if you're with the right person and you have a healthy home and you strive to have a healthy home that has some boundaries, some structure, you're being led by a good man, then these things aren't going to seem like hell to you or something. Like you're gonna have the support that you need if you ever have to sacrifice something. Like something will be in place for you to still feel a sense of safety and security, even though you have to kind of give something up or go without for a little bit. Like you're not gonna truly feel like devastated the way a woman is who's probably doing things on her own and has to deal with certain situations and stuff like that. When you're a woman who has someone by your side to support you through the bad times, it's a whole different type of feeling compared to going through the bad times by yourself as a woman. Or just having friendships or family members who love you and care for you, but at the end of the day they still have their own lives to handle as well. Right. So, the manosphere and the red pill is very anti-woman. They don't realize it, I guess, because they're too busy complaining about what they don't receive as men, and too, ignorant to realize that men still, there's still male privilege that's very alive and well in today's society. And if the men just prove themselves and really work hard and stop crying over the internet all day, they'll have the results that they want. There's plenty of men who have followed that strategy of just being go-getters and have actually won. Like, these are what I would consider the true high value men, the men who didn't cry and wallow in their sorrows, actually got up and made it happen, and built communities and created systems that were safe and doable for women and children, and then created them so well that they're like automated to the point where these men don't have to break their back like the men did 200 something years ago. Now these men today, who are considered what I would consider high value, have a much easier time of getting the job done because they have really like evolved every single negative scenario and like evolved it to the point where they have so many solutions for so many things. Art of Aries says these guys really don't care about the environment the children are raised in. These guys don't care because they want to groom the kids and prey on them too. Patriarchy seems predatory. Yeah, patriarchy is definitely predatory to men who I believe, or patriarchy is predatory by men who I believe just are not in touch with their masculinity. These men, if you just hear them talk, they've clearly been emasculated at some point in their life, hence why they grow up to be predators and feel hungry for that sense of power, because maybe they were probably put in a predatory role themselves when they were younger, either mentally, emotionally. Something has to give, because no one, man or woman, is born inherently bad. It is something that is evolved and changed in them through their experiences, through their beliefs, through what they've just seen over and over again. And those types of things really shape a person and who they are. Guyanese Doll says, women have foresight. Women look at life as a marathon, not a sprint, like men, and it shows with self improvement and their thinking. Yes, absolutely. Women are very, very much so have the foresight and think long term. Men do not. It's a growing number of men who are impatient. There's so many other videos I see and just comments I see where men are complaining that women today are like children. It is quite literally the opposite. My opinion, it's so many men who are still children, so many men who have been propped up on a pedestal by their mommies and are still trying to receive that type of treatment from women in everyday life, and they're still kids. There is an actual term for this. A psychologist stemmed the term. It's called prolonged adolescence. And a lot of prolonged adolescence is happening with grown men who are like well into their 30s, still acting like they're just 21 or something, just extremely young. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like there's a lot of men who are children because they're impatient. They don't want to work hard. They want what they want when they want it, and then they want it because they're just men. They just think that they deserve things, which is true entitlement. And they're not going to get it from that way. It's like you have to work hard for things in life. Men of all people should know this because they're the one who created things to be this way. Women didn't create things to be this way. Women from early times just did what men said, to be honest, because women didn't have rights. And it was only first wave feminism that came about, which really started in the late 1800s to start changing the game. Started by white women, by the way, right? And really the initial part of feminism was just getting women to go to work and do jobs that were male dominated, versus just only having the main option to be in the home. And then throughout the decades, it evolved to what it is today. Okay, I don't know who this person is, but all right, guys, that's all I really wanted to say. I didn't want to stay on here long because I have some other things I need to do. I'm studying for some stuff for my job. I'm studying some certificate stuff right now, trying to expand my career. So, I didn't want to stay on here long. I just wanted to talk about Black conservatism, Candace Owens, and the Kanye West stunt, because that's exactly what it was. It was a stunt. And whatever they wanted to accomplish with it, they accomplished. Hey, Mocha Mommy, I'm going to leave this up so that you guys can catch the replay. Shout out to Lumi for coming through. Shout out to Black Women Making Money. I was just on her channel the other day. Make sure you subscribe to her. She gives amazing tips for Black women to, excel in their finances and building for themselves and for their future. And I really, really love her channel. It's really good. So make sure you guys subscribe. Hey, Bula. So yeah, make sure you guys subscribe if you're listening for the first time, like this video, comment down below your thoughts on these two things that have happened. I don't usually come on to talk about like cultural things, but I do think that there's a lot that can be learned about what else is going on just out there, that we can discuss. So I hope you guys enjoyed this live, and I will catch you ladies in the next one.